And Representative Casimiro, how about 5159?
Thank you, Chairman.
Please proceed.
House Bill 5159 is a direct result of this pandemic. During the school closures, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, my phone and my emails were all about kids not getting the special services that they need. This bill would provide that physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and music therapies, and behavioral health services would be deemed essential services that needed to be provided to students with disabilities during a time of a declared state of emergency. The act would also direct the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to promulgate rules and regulations to help provide these essential special services. My heart breaks listening to some of the stories that I heard about kids not getting the special services that they need. I had one constituent whose daughter needed physical therapy and it wasn't being provided, and as a result, she regressed by 50% in her physical activity. I had another, one of my neighbors, whose daughter relies heavily on music therapy, and during the summer months, there was a possibility for her to get those music therapies while being socially distant, doing it outside in the warm weather, but those services were suspended. And I'm not looking to ask therapists to put themselves in harm's way, but I think that we need to make sure that these kids are getting services should another declared state of emergency come. And I know some of the testimony you might hear is that the problem's taking care of itself. I don't believe the problem has taken care of itself, and I think we need to take action as a legislative body to ensure that the solution is in place. These kids need these services, and it's killing some of the parents not getting them. They can do it, via the computer, in a gymnasium, being socially distant, wearing masks. It's got to happen because these kids are really suffering.
Okay. Are there any questions for Representative Casimiro? I know my daughter's a speech pathologist, and last summer she had several students that she was working with remotely, and I saw that, and I spoke with her about it, and she said it was effective. It depends a lot upon the family, how they're set up, what the household is like.
Some of the providers were not letting their employees, who are therapists, engage in their therapy, but the therapists wanted to do it, but the organizations wouldn't let them, and it was really heartbreaking to listen to some of the stories that came up this summer.
Yeah.
Chairman, I have a comment. I didn't know if you saw my hand, if I can speak.
Oh, yes. So please proceed. Representative
Thank
Caldwell.
you.
I didn't see your hand. Yeah.
Oh, now I can't hear you, but.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Representative Caldwell, welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk briefly about this bill. This is an issue Rep. Casimiro and I worked together on over the summer. I heard also from countless constituents with stories that just broke my heart about their children who were left to distance learn during the pandemic, who simply cannot distance learn. A lot of you probably know I also have two little kids who are 6 and today 9, who were sent home to distance learn during this pandemic, and they had a very difficult time with it, and I had a difficult time with it, even though they don't really have any learning challenges. And so this is really for kids who distance learning is not an option. There is no learning as part of their distance learning. And it is also for the kids who a large part of going to school is being with other people, maybe taking a walk around school and simply associating with classmates and their teachers. And, another part of this is that the schools offered or were forced to offer compensatory services, which they're really not going to be able to give these kids. So the state really needs to act on this issue. Rep. Casimiro, Rep. McEntee, and I sent a letter over the summer to the governor's office asking her to pass an executive order, like they did in New York, saying that these services were essential during a pandemic. And she did not. But now that we are back in session, we have an opportunity to do this. We really need to be focusing on our kids with special needs during this pandemic. They have lost so much more than so many of our kids, and I just really hope we can take action on this ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Caldwell. Are there any other comments or questions? Our first witness is Leanne Barrett, Kids Count. Welcome, Leanne. Please proceed.
Hi, it's Leanne. I'm a senior policy analyst at Rhode Island Kids Count, and I would like to offer testimony in support of Rep. Casimiro's Bill 5159, which is really a planning bill to ensure that essential IDEA services happen during emergencies. As I know many of you know, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which was passed way back in 1975, is a civil rights bill guaranteeing that children with developmental delays and disabilities are not excluded from public education, and that special education services are designed and delivered to help children gain skills and knowledge. I have a graph in my written testimony that you can take a look at if you like. We also wanted to point out that children under age 3 are overseen by the Executive Office of Health and Human Services in their early intervention program, so you might want to include them in this planning process as well. They have done a great job with transition to telehealth, but I know there's also some challenges with in-person services with them as well. About 17% of U.S. children ages 3 to 17 have a developmental delay or disability. So there's quite a few families who are affected by this, and we do know that IDEA services work since enactment of that landmark law. Kids with disabilities have gotten better. They're more likely to reach proficiency standards in school. They're more likely to graduate from high school. They're more likely to enroll in post-secondary education, and more likely to become employed as adults. So it works, and we need to make sure that kids get the services that they need. We know that special ed services can be delivered to children who are not attending public school through telehealth and also in person in settings outside of public school, including at home. In fact, pre-pandemic, many young children with developmental delays and disabilities received their special education services at home or in a community-based child care or Head Start program. And some children ages 6 through 21 have also been received their services at home as well. So we know that, the pandemic has really thrown things for a loop, and during the summer it was very difficult. The RIPEN had a poll which really found that although most students had access to some or all of the related services outlined in their IEP, a substantial number of students did not receive those services. And we also know that a lot of kids are enrolled in distance learning, both typically developing as well as kids with disabilities. Data from RIDE in October shows that about 38.5% of students ages 3 to 21 who have an IEP were enrolled in in-person instruction. So the majority are not. They're enrolled in distance learning. Same with all students. 43% of all students are receiving in-person instruction as of October. So we need a plan that could be used during this pandemic as well as in future emergencies. So that concludes my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Leanne Barrett, Kids Count? Hearing none. The Rhode Island Department of Education has submitted written testimony, and I think they have a suggested amendment. Tim Ryan, Rhode Island Association of School Superintendents. They're both on? Okay, I thought Andy said not speaking. Okay, welcome. Both Mr. Andre and Mr. Ryan, welcome. Okay, welcome.
Hello?
Yes, hi. Welcome, Andy. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great to be with you and the members of the committee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. We certainly support the intent of this legislation, and I really want to applaud and commend Rep. Casimiro. She's put her heart and soul into this issue. We talked many times, along with Rep. Caldwell. She's had several constituents that called them about this particular issue, and it's heartbreaking. And as she mentioned, the bill is a result of COVID, and there's no question that there were in-person and one-on-one services that were not available to those students that needed them the most: physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, music, and behavioral health services. And that certainly they are essential services. One of the things that RIDE did, we sent a letter to all districts during this time in the communication we had with Rep. Casimiro, a letter encouraging districts to do whatever they could possibly do to provide these services in whatever way that they could. And as you know, COVID presented very unique problems, and hopefully in the future this will be the exception rather than the rule, because we all want to provide these services to these needy students. So that concludes my testimony. Chairman, I just also I wasn't able to get into the call on her bill on the foster care data. We're very much involved with that. Been working with her on that for a number of years, and we'll do whatever we can to help superintendents get the data that they need to provide the report on foster care achievement in schools. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Andre. Mr. Ryan?
You're welcome.
Is Mr. Ryan on this call as well? Mr. Ryan?
Chairman McNamara.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Ryan. Welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you for the committee for all their hard work under these unusual circumstances. Last summer was truly a very challenging time, very difficult for parents. I know my grandkids, what they've been through and still going through with the challenges of the pandemic. I think one of the things, we certainly support the intent of the bill. We support the idea of developing contingency guidelines. But just a couple things about the exact language. It says that these services would be provided during an emergency order. And that could mean a flood. It could mean a hurricane. I think we just need a little flexibility with how we do that. I think we definitely need compensatory time. If we miss a service, it has to be made up. But I think as it's written now, it says it's provided during the activity. So I think we need to have better guidelines so we don't have this situation come up again. But I think we just need to take a look at this language, and I'm sure the special ed directors in the state would be happy to work with RIDE on any of these guidelines.
Could you forward your suggested amendments to us so we could work on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank
It's just a couple language changes because obviously I don't think,
if you could forward them to us.
I will do that.
That'll be great.
I will do that.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
questions for these witnesses? Yes, Representative Caldwell.
Thank you, Chairman. Andy, is Andy still there?
It's Mr. Ryan. I think Andy left.
Okay, I'll hang up.
No.
Oh, that's okay. I just had a comment, as Andy mentioned, we did meet and talk several times over the summer. And, some of my school committee members have written in favor of this bill. And it is great to have folks in charge of this who support the intent, but we really need to do more than support the intent of these bills. We need to enact the services that this bill provides for. There was some confusion when we spoke to RIDE over the summer that they had allowed districts to open, and most districts simply decided not to. And, not everyone knew why they decided to do that. If they felt like it wasn't safe for their teachers, if they didn't have enough PPE, that was not communicated clearly to school committees or us as General Assembly members, or certainly the parents with the students in need of these services. So I'm very happy that everybody is here tonight, the superintendents and RIDE and all of us, to talk about this. But certainly supporting the intent has to move forward with getting a bill that will make sure that there is a clear rule that, this is not just encouraged, this is in fact required, and it's, constitutionally protected, as Leanne pointed out, services that these students need. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Caldwell. Are there any further questions for these witnesses? Thank you. That concludes the hearing on 5159.